Hello lovely people, my name is Emma and today I'm doing like a goals check-in for roughly halfway through the year. So we are partway through July now, which means technically speaking it's not halfway through the year, but I haven't actually finished any books in July yet, so I'm taking all of my stats from like the end of June, which is pretty like bang on for halfway through the year. So we're going to see what goals I set, how I'm doing and how I'm comparing to last year. In terms of books read, my goal is 100 books, same as last year, and instead I have read 70, which means according to Goodreads I'm 19 books ahead of schedule. Last year I read 129, give or take. I think my Goodreads got slightly messed up, like tracking a few DNF'd as counting, but roughly we're looking at like around that kind of number. So I do think I'm like ahead when it comes to how many books I'd read by this time last year. So if we look at the number of pages, I had to work it out on my phone. Did a little bit of number crunching and worked out, according to Goodreads, last year I read 44,479 pages, whereas currently at this point in the year I've read 18,892 pages. So my average page length, my average book length last year was 344 pages, whereas at the moment it's sitting on 269. See, I knew I was reading shorter books this year, so whilst I am like potentially ahead from where I was this time last year, and I'm definitely well on track to hit 100 books, my actual page count is like dramatically lower, because if I was matching last year's like average page count, I should actually have read 24,080 pages rather than the 18,892 that I have. So I'm like a good, what's that, like rounding up and down 5,000 pages, essentially like an entire month's reading behind on where I should be. Maybe not an entire month's reading, maybe like a month and a half's reading on like where I should be, so, or where I could be, not should, because we're not like necessarily putting strict things on this, but where I could be. So in that respect that's not fantastic in some ways, and I do definitely think I've been prioritizing my reading a bit less recently. I've had like a whole change of job situation, which means that it's a lot harder for me to prioritize my reading, but that's just an excuse. I have slightly less control over my schedule now, but I did have a period of time at the beginning of the year when I was unemployed where like that should have kind of counted anything slowing down now. But I think it's just basically like there are too many times at the moment where I'm reaching for my phone rather than actually reading a book. Like tonight, for example, where I could have easily sat and smashed out like 2 hours of reading, and I just didn't. I sat and watched like reruns of stuff I've already watched on YouTube and played mahjong on my phone, and that's stupid. So we are trying to get into better habits again with my reading, and I've got some things that like I think next year I'm not going to focus on the number of books, I'm going to focus on the number of pages read, and I'm going to try and tackle some of the like bigger books on my shelf. But pages and books wasn't the only thing I was talking about this year. So how am I doing for all of my other things? I put some trackers into my bullet journal at the beginning of the year, and I decided at the beginning of the year I wanted to read 20 non-fiction and 20 classics books, and I'm exactly equal on both of them, having read 9 each, which means I'm like one behind on each of them as to what point I should be at the year. However, I'm doing really well because non-fiction November is coming up in November, funnily enough, where I will read a lot of non-fiction, funnily enough. So I'm counting like at least 5 of the slots for non-fiction to be in that month, and I do have a non-fiction on the go right now. And as for classics, like as you've probably seen in my latest haul and just generally like with a lot of the videos I've been talking about recently, I've been really enjoying them and really prioritizing them, so I can see me like finishing off my classics tracker in the next 2 or 3 months without it being even like a struggle. Like I've got a bunch of classics coming up that I really want to read, including 2 on the go at the moment. So in that respect I think I'm doing fantastically there. I did set myself like I did a bunch of videos back in January of like various books I wanted to read, whether it be like a classics TBR or like various authors I wanted to reread or things like that. So we're gonna have a little look about how I'm doing for those. For authors, new to me authors that I wanted to read, I have managed to read 4 of the 9 on my list, and I've also decided that 2 of them I'm no longer interested in reading. So in that respect I only actually have 3 left that I'm still interested in reading. So I've read a Neil Gaiman, I've read 2 Kate Atkinsons, and I've read a Daphne du Maurier and a Mitch Albom, which is awesome. So I've read 4. I'm no longer interested in Laura Bates or Holly Black, but I do still want to read Ken Liu, Alexander McCall Smith and Paul Tremblay. Hopefully I'll get to at least a Ken Liu, because I have a Ken Liu on my shelf. In fact I have 2. Hopefully I'll get to them by the end of the year. The other 2 I'm not too sure. And then for authors that I wanted to revisit, because I've read one or two of their books before and want to definitely go back to,